Hey, this is Mr. V. I'm doing a book review for Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Before I do my book review, I want you to know that I try to do a spoiler-free book review, so if you see me looking down sometimes, I just have notes, so I try not to give any spoilers away. So, let's get into the book review for Siddhartha. So, Siddhartha he's a son of a wealthy Indian who casts off a life of privilege to seek spiritual fulfillment. And so that's basically the main premise of the book. It's about a kid, and he's basically in like a spiritual search. And, this is a fictional book. This is a fictional book. But he's in a spiritual search, and he's trying to, like, find happiness through different journeys. And they use, like, Buddhist and, like, Hindu philosophies throughout the book. And basically, you just follow his journey. That's basically what you're doing in this book. So I felt that this book, this wouldn't be an odd one to review, but this book I felt had a very slow start. You'll hear more about that later in my review, but this book definitely had a very slow start. As you're basically looking into the life of a monk. I forget the term they used in the book, but you're basically looking into the life of a monk where, you follow his journey where he's searching for meaning, his thoughts on life, the extreme self-control he can have. And they even have examples of each about his thoughts, how he is searching, how he does these self-control, stuff like that. And Siddhartha is the main character, and you hear all these philosophies and all that. And, it is really good that it does have like some good quotes, good thoughts, good philosophies, and it reminds you of the wisdom that like you would hear from a monk type of thing. It reminds you of that. I mean, that's kind of like he's following the life of that. The problem with it is that I would say that some of the book is boring. Some of the book is boring. And it's not because you're just following the life of a monk and following his journey, but some of the book is definitely boring in that he has various stages in his life. He does have various stages in the life. I can't go in depth on any of them, but the book, it's various stages in his life, and it shows the highs and the lows. So it shows throughout the whole book, and basically in the whole book, you're covering his whole life. You're following his whole journey. So that is just something you should know, and that there were some areas that will keep you interested. There definitely are areas that would keep you interested, and then you wanted to keep reading, but then the author would bring in some of the boredom. And it would be like, and then in the middle, like he would throw some good philosophies in there, and that's what's like, okay, yeah, you're showing something good, but then there would be some like boring aspects. And it was just, that made it very tough. Like, as I said in the beginning of the review, this book had a very slow start. Like some of the areas I did not like was how slow a start it was, that I almost gave up on the book. Like, I know that the author was trying to set the scenery and do all of that stuff, or he's trying to set the tone of the book, everything like that. But it was so slow, and I almost never give up on a book. But I almost did, because I felt it wasn't till about the 25% mark that it started to get a little better. But with that being said, you should know I said that it gets better. I don't think this book ever got good. Like, it just got better, because I thought there was good aspects, and then it would become boring again. Like, and there would be like good philosophies thrown in, but it's like I want the story to be interesting type of thing. And I think some of it had to do with that the writing really wasn't that good. I wouldn't say that it was horrible writing, but I would say that this is definitely well below average for writing. Because I felt that he didn't describe the scenery well. He didn't describe it. It was very minimal. Like, examples would be he would talk about being on a ferry boat or being in a river, things like that. But you kind of had to like almost use your own imagination, because he didn't really go in depth about the scenery. So, that stuff, I thought that wasn't good. And then like one of the big downfalls of the book was that he basically had no character development. It was, again, very, very minimal. And that was tough, because there would be Siddhartha, you would know they're a friend of his, and there would be dialogue between them, but you basically did not know the character's traits because the author did almost no character development or such minimal character development. And I think character development is humongous in stories, yet he did almost no character development. And I thought, that was really bad. And then another part that I didn't like was I felt that this story just was not gripping. It really wasn't. That, yeah, it kept you interested enough, but then there would be some boredom. And it kept you interested enough that you did want to finish the book. He would throw some interest in there, and you did want to finish it. But it definitely was not a page turner at all. And I thought it was nice that, that overall, the overall book, I thought it was nice that it had great spiritual meanings, and he had great philosophies, and they used great metaphors, and it reminded me of stuff like that, like a monk would tell you, things like that. And it reminds you of that. Like an example that I wrote down, at one point he says that wisdom cannot be passed on, and how knowledge can be conveyed, but wisdom cannot be passed on. And, that's something that's like, wow, it really blows your mind in a way, and it is true. And they talk about it a bit more. And there's many more like that throughout the book. And, for that reason, it's like an easy read. It's a peaceful book, but the story didn't grab me. As I just said, I gave you that, metaphor they showed in the book, but it was like the story just did not grab me at all. And it felt more like it was a minimal story, but it feels more like he was just teaching Buddhism or Hindu philosophy. That's what it felt more like throughout this book. And, I just something didn't grab me about it. But let me give you my official rating for this book. So I always rate my books on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is an awful book that you don't want to read. A 5 is average, and a 10 is phenomenal. If it gets anywhere near 10, you should put that on your reading list because I'm a very tough critic. So it's hard to move up even 1 point. So for Siddhartha, with a 5 being average, I'm going to rate this book a 2.5, which is pretty far below average. And the reason I rated it a 2.5 was I just thought that this book, it just didn't grab me. I thought that I said there were some parts of the story would be good and then it would become boring. I thought the writing was not good. He didn't set the scenery well. He did not have character development. And I know that I'm probably going to get some backlash for rating it a 2.5 when a 5 is average, for rating it that far below average. I didn't think the book was so horrible, but 2.5 is getting close to it. And I know a lot of people love this book, but from what I've seen online, it's almost like people either love this book or they hated the book. It was one or the other, and I'm on the side of, again, the story something about the story just didn't grab me, and maybe it just wasn't for me. I do not recommend you guys go and read this book, or at least if you go read this book, know what you're getting into. But, if you guys have any comments, questions, disagreements, anything like that, please post it in the comments section below. I hope you guys click the subscribe button because I upload multiple different types of book reviews all the time. But thank you for watching my book review today. This is Mr. V. Go enjoy reading.